Jill Aylott, I hate to use the word cancer journey, but can you take us back and tell us how you found out you had cancer and what was the cancer?
Yeah, probably about 3 years ago, I started getting a pain in my arm, and I'd been to gyms and I thought I'd overstretched a muscle, and I kept going back to the doctors and saying, I've got this, and it kept coming up in a bump, getting bigger and bigger, and the doctor kept saying, no, nothing there, it's fine. And then I went back in 2019 in April, and I said to her, can you just send me for a scan, because it's not right, it's hurting. So she said, oh, I will, just a normal scan, it'll be 8 weeks. So I got the scan and I went, and the minute the man scanned my arm and looked at it, he said, I don't know what this is. And I said, what do you mean? Is it something for me to worry about? And he said, I think it is, because I really don't know what it is. How long have you had it? And I said, well, probably for about 3 years. And he said, well, why haven't you done anything about it? I said, well, I have, but obviously. So it just went crazy then. I was straight to an MRI, and then the doctors looked at it and they said, sorry, we've got to refer you to the Marsden in London.
So can you explain, what is the Marsden?
The Marsden is only a cancer hospital, so they only deal with so many different cancers. And they believed it was a sarcoma, so they had to send me to the sarcoma unit, and the Marsden's got the best sarcoma unit in Europe. So I was very lucky that I went there. And I went there and they looked at it and they said, we don't think it's anything, but we'll do a biopsy because we can't ignore it now. And so I had a biopsy, and then they called me back in and they said, we're sorry, but it is, and it's a sarcoma, and it's not only is it a sarcoma, it's a very rare sarcoma that really only affects 1 in a million people.
So, yeah, the 1 in a million. And so they treated it?
Yes. The trouble with this type of sarcoma, there's no one treatment. One treatment doesn't fit all. So some cancers are indolent, which they said mine was quite an indolent cancer, because it could have been there for years and it's just started growing. But there isn't one treatment. But I was very lucky that there's a clinic under Dr. Jones, and one of his surgical oncologists is Mr. Andrew Hayes, and he has been doing for about the last year something called an isolated limb perfusion. And so we met with him, and he explained the procedure, which is basically I had to go into hospital, they tourniquet your arm off, they run the blood through a machine, and they treat it with a type of chemotherapy which I believe is at least 10 times stronger than a normal chemotherapy would be. They run that through, and then they let it go through, and then flush it through, and then that chemotherapy stays in your arm and does hopefully its work. Unfortunately, the first time I had it done, the machine broke down. So not only 1 in a million, I think he said I was about 1 in 1,000 people that the machine had ever broken down. But I went straight back in, and he did it again, and this time it worked. And yeah, so they left it there for about 6 months, and I had MRIs every 2 or 3 months. And it started to shrink, and then the pandemic hit. And then they said, we don't know, we need to do surgery on it, but will we get surgery? But I was very lucky. They got me in on the 1st of April and last year, and took me into Sutton Hospital, and he did the surgery, and he got it out with clear margins, which is always a good thing, because it means there's no cancer surrounding. But it's EHE, so that doesn't always mean that the story's over. It just means they've treated that. So I'm on checkups every 6 months, MRIs and checkups every 6 months now.
In what you said over the last couple of minutes, there's lots of checkups, MRIs, scans. That must be very expensive.
It is. That's why you're so thankful for the NHS. But obviously, I think I'm lucky because I'm within the area of London, and we can, that we're treated. But some people go to their local hospitals and they really don't know how to treat it, and not everyone gets referred to the Marsden. I think there's only one other doctor in a Sheffield hospital that knows much about EHE, so I was very lucky to get to the Marsden.
So there is a cancer charity, EHERCC Cancer Charity. They're always looking for funds.
Always.
So they're you volunteered me to do which is very grateful, to do the London Landmarks Half Marathon. Yeah. So what's your appeal to people regarding this charity?
It's set up by a gentleman called Hugh, whose wife has had EHE for 20 years, and hers has remained indolent. But as Hugh says, she has a ticking time bomb inside her, that any day for any reason, it could turn aggressive. And so he's been trying to set up a charity in the UK. He's done very well. He's raised so much money, but it's a struggle. And obviously with the pandemic, it's made it worse. And they get no money from government because it's a rare cancer. You know, it's 1 in a million. So it's, you know, does it matter?
Because people will see things like the London Marathon rather than the big charities with loads of people
Everything.
running for these charities, but there are some which are basically Cinderella charities. You're saying this is one of them?
Yeah, they get basically nothing. I mean, they've raised so much money. They've done they've created a biobank now, which they're asking all the sufferers to donate tissue and blood, which we've done. And that, you know, they're doing well, but they're just unknown. People just don't know about it. You know, they just don't know about it. And they, you know, you think, oh, it's 1 in a million. That's, you know, it's not like breast cancer. But if you're that 1 in a million, if your mum, your dad, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle is that 1 in a million, it matters. It matters.